Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome back from our long extended holiday and snow break. Today is January 14th, 2025, and our regular scheduled meeting of the Waynesboro Area School District Board of Directors. So let us go ahead and begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, so we have a couple of members absent, so Ms. Hennikel, if you would please do roll call.
Mr. Pence,
Here.
Mrs. Straight,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Fortney,
Here.
Dr. Royer,
Here.
Mr. Hamburger is not in attendance, Mrs. Miles,
Here.
Mrs. Zimmerman is not in attendance, Mr. Marvin.
Here. Alrighty, now we have, our next item is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a first and a second. Any changes, Dr. Sternheim? Alrighty, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now gonna move on to the approval of our minutes. These are from December 17, 2024. There a motion to approve our previous minutes.
Here's to approve. Second.
First and a second, any amendments or updates, corrections from last time? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. That will then bring us to our superintendent report, Dr. Sternheim.
Thank you. Waynesbury School District will be in session on February 17th and March 17th as to make up the snow days of January 6th and 7th. In addition, the operational calendar has one more snow makeup day that is April 17th. And once we've used all of those days, we would then transition into the FID days, which is also referred to as the virtual learning days. January is Board Appreciation Month, so I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your dedication for serving our school community. Last night, I had an opportunity to attend a girls wrestling match. That's the first time I've had an opportunity to see girls in serving in that capacity or working in that capacity in the Waynesbury School District, and it was very impressive. So congratulations to our coaches and our young ladies who are now wrestling for the Waynesbury School District. Speaking of wrestlers, I'm not sure if Zach was going to reference Jaden Rooney. Okay, so Jaden is a wrestler at the Waynesboro High School. He is going to be joining what is referred to as the 100th Win Club. His name will be placed on a banner in the gym, and it has been 20 years since we've had a wrestler that reached this goal. So congratulations to Jaden as he continues his success. In your folder, you will have a handout that's referencing Pennsylvania School Finance, top 10 uncontrollables that impact WASD budget. It's just a general information of top 10 things that obviously board members you're perhaps aware of, but obviously maybe not as many community members, taxpayers. So it's just a highlight of things that we're essentially responsible for paying for in the Waynesbury School District or every school district in the state of Pennsylvania that are essentially uncontrollable. So this is something that I will eventually post on the website. I thank Dr. Holtzman and Dr. Deshawn for working on this with me, as well as the admin who reviewed it as well. Also, you have the copy of the financial obligations or interest form in your a hard copy version. Mrs. Hennikel will be following up with an email tomorrow for additional directions. And one more final announcement, make sure you are rounding up at Martin's. The rounding up at the Waynesboro Martins will benefit Waynesboro Food Services, so.
And you can also, if I remember correctly from last year, if rounding up is just less than $1, you can also pick $1 option or a $3 option and give a little extra.
You
If
give
you
extra.
feel led
absolute-
to do that,
Yes,
that day you're shopping.
absolutely.
So, yeah.
So they will not always ask you to round up, but you can always round up. And that's what, it's till the 31st. So thank you for that effort.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sternheim. Ms.
Oh,
Henry?
wait, one more.
Oh, it's like
Sorry,
there's more.
I forgot. I can share this in the Friday folder, but I received a letter of thank you from the mayor, the borough council, from the borough manager. If you remember earlier in the summer, the Northside Pool had asked to borrow metal detectors from the Waynesbury School District to help facilitate a safety concern at the pool. So they are very thankful that we allowed them to borrow them and are very thankful for our partnership. So I'm glad that we were able to assist in that nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Henry, no public comment?
Public comment.
Okay. That will then bring us to our student board report. Mr. Kaiser.
How are you guys?
Good.
Good. How was your?
Mine was swell.
With 3 little ones in the house, it was slow.
It was swell.
Oh, swell.
Swell.
Okay.
I wish it was swell.
Well, the winter formal is like it's dead. The National Art Honor Society created a rosebud that they dropped like the. We do not have pictures, but it looked really. We went to it. It was really fun. FBLA went to regionals, where they listened to a speaker and received the results. And the bocce team won their home opener. For the first semester started last week, and students have a long weekend this week. So Monday off. Most importantly, there are already 2 snow days. Next day in which school will be canceled. Today, I've already received some complaints. The main complaint is the required Google Meets, also the requirement to keep the camera. When I asked for a proposed solution, one student that they would like, whenever a teacher has to call in for a substitute, what they do is they put work in the day before that is easy enough for the students to complete without the help of the teacher, but also like mentally stimulating. That's like. That's it.
Guys, I appreciate how you brought a complaint, but then asked for feedback on a possible resolution. Like that is well done. Yeah, thank you. That then brings us to our board reports. We will start with anything from our policy committee.
Yeah, policy committee met on December 19th. We reviewed and updated a number of policies. Looks like we have 5 on for first reading. 236.1 threat assessment, 252 dating violence, 236 personal necessity leave, 339 uncompensated leave. And the one that took most of the time for the meeting was 815.4 was use of generative AI in education in our district. That was a lengthy policy, and there's one of the biggest things, there was a grid in there that kind of was a disclosure type thing that any student that's using AI has to disclose basically. No use of AI without disclosing to the teacher. So that was a big portion on page 3. But those were all first reading. The other policies for first reading had minor change. And then for second reading tonight, we have 218 student discipline, 218.1 weapons, 218.2 terroristic threats, 607 tuition income, 803 schedule, or the school calendar, and then 806 child abuse.
No, that's a lot to work through, so thank you. Next, anything from academic?
Yes, we had our meeting today. We had a really, great agenda. I thought we had a great meeting, covered a lot of ground. The big things that we discussed impacting the district are the new, adoption of the steel standards, that there will be, a new test for moving from fourth grade to fifth grade, beginning this year as a pilot test and then being implemented next year. Dr. McCallum is going to come up and talk when I'm finished about some of the differences at the high school. They're going to be making ninth grade basically go to a global science course as opposed to what it is currently, which is Earth. Okay. And then making those changes. We talked about the before and after school learning that started at Maury for Hooverville and Fairview, and we'll be starting at Maury for learners before school, mainly targeting math. We talked about school videos that Dr. DeShong is putting together with the administration to highlight every school that will be on the website sometime this year. And then we moved into talking about WAMS math. They're looking at a new math program for next year, grades 6 through 8. And they're going to be visiting Derry Township and Juniata shortly to look at 2 programs, and then coming up with a recommendation for the board for later this spring. We are going to move the March meeting in order to facilitate the in-service day where they'll be making some decisions regarding the math program. And I asked Dr. DeShong to bring to that meeting in March, a detailed description for the committee as to what we're looking at in course of and budget implications for curriculum next year in terms of textbooks. So that meeting will be March. Could you look real quick?
Yeah.
I couldn't get him to
just
my
sent it to Mrs.
agenda
Pence,
here. We're moving it
right.
back 2 weeks.
I sent it to Mrs. Pence. She's gonna send it out to everybody.
Mr. Pence, we're hoping, can you make an afternoon meeting? Yeah, we're moving it to 2 o'clock,
March 25th.
March 25th at 2 o'clock as opposed to March 14th. So that'll give them some more time to take care of that. And then basically the course selection guideline, Dr. McCallum had put a memo together indicating any changes that were going to occur with the adoption. It is on the board for approval tonight. The academic committee was okay with moving forward with that. That memo came out, I guess, on the 19th of December. I will speak for myself, had not read it as closely as probably I should have. So Dr. McCallum was graciously willing to go over some of that today. And then some of the things in terms of actual course changes, I asked her to highlight this evening, and she said she would be glad to do that. You also have a handout in your folder in front of you that was a study, some research done by Mr. Knoll looking at our electives in the high school and whether or not we're targeting the needs of the students. Dr. McCallum's also going to be referring to that. So if you have that handy, I feel like a teacher. It looks like this.
Isn't that what you did for your career, Dr. Royer? That's all right. Anything else from academic? That's it?
Yep, and Dr. McCallum's going to finish it out.
Oh. Won't we wait till we get to the
Yeah,
course selection?
Yes,
day?
absolutely. That'll
Yeah.
work.
And then facilities has not met. We did I believe post and advertise. We are moving the meeting next week from Tuesday to Monday. So that'll be Monday, January 20th at 5:30 p.m. So just as an awareness that has been posted. And then budget met last evening, yesterday evening. Some of the things that are of discussion. February is kind of the big date or the big month in terms of that's typically when the governor releases his preliminary budget. And so that kind of gives us an idea of what the discussion is around state funding. One of the things we're also discussing in conjunction with facilities is kind of some large projects we're looking at over the summer. One of the things we're trying to ensure is that both the left and right hands know what each other is doing in terms of planning for the summer. And then something else that is of continual discussion is the continuation of special education needs within our district. Those are both in terms of services we provide our students, as well as staff or teachers we need to hire to support those services for those students. So I think that is a continual discussion that we're having as a budget committee. And I know there's been a lot of work from Mr. McDonald and Ms. Richards as well in terms of identifying needs and then what are potential solutions. So that is it for budget. Ready. So I think that will conclude our board reports. So we will then move on to our first item of business. And so as personnel. So Dr. DeShawn.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Yeah, so we have we're seeking your approval for a support staff resignation. There's 3 support staff reassignments. We have 3 support staff assignments. There are 4 classroom monitors, which is Act 91, and there's certain stipulations you have to go through to become a classroom monitor, such as classroom management training, X number of years experience, and college credits. There's 4 on there we're seeking your approval for. There's 4 extracurricular appointments we're seeking your approval for, and 6 support staff substitutes. We also have game personnel appointment to help out with different, I think bocce there in that particular case, and 3 requests for leaves.
All right, thank you, Dr. DeShawn. Is there a motion to approve the personnel as listed? First, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, first and second, any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain, conflict of interest.
1 abstention. For Pence. And carries. That brings us next then to, this is a discussion only of the WASD 2025-26 operational school calendar. That
So,
Okay.
what you have in your folder is a hard copy. Ms. Hanical, I don't know if you wanna, give Kaiser a copy since he has an opinion about it and he shared it out. So we're gonna incorporate you in the discussion, but this calendar may not leave the meeting. So, actually, interestingly enough, this is related to policy 803, which we are what's on the agenda for second reading. The state of Pennsylvania is essentially has allowed districts to elect to do the hours or the days. What I am suggesting is we still reserve the right to do hours and or days. The calendar very much reflects what we've done in the past. The difference here is that from a snow day perspective, we still have the snow days with the idea that we would utilize those 3 snow days and then move into FID days, which are the virtual learning days. We do in our district have what is referred to as asynchronous virtual learning, which means that our educators as well as our learners are required to be on camera or attending for periods of time, not for the duration of the day. I do appreciate your feedback. I would say that from a secondary perspective, the ability to work independently probably works a little better than if you're in 2nd or 3rd grade. So it has to be a balance of the 2. In terms of what other school districts are doing locally, there are districts who do not utilize FID days whatsoever. They just tack those to the end of the year. I did check with the Franklin County superintendents, and most of them at this point are still incorporating 1 to 2 snow days. And so ultimately, as a district, my recommendation would be to utilize the 3 snow days and then go roll back into the FID days. With the understanding that based on the time of year of when those days fall, our teachers are still obligated for 187 days. So they would have to work in maybe a professional learning capacity, but Zach, if it's late enough in the year, the students may or may not be obligated to complete a FID day, which may or may not make learners happy and in some cases parents happy as well. So that we're not voting on this tonight, but I just wanted to get a hard copy in front of you. I truly believe, that we've been committed at the district at this point to try to end the year as close to the end of May. Oftentimes when you roll into those June days, attendance becomes a little more problematic. We are, unlike other state, schools, like primarily in the eastern part of the state, oftentimes they start after Labor Day, so they're not finishing up until mid-June. I always like to share the story that my second year of teaching, our last day of school was June 21st, and that was here in the district. So it's just for your review. I will take questions.
Question for Zach. What do the students feel like having days tacked on to the end of the year?
I don't think that really matters to them because our school gets out so early that we're normally out before other school districts. I'm personally fine with fit days. I don't really, you guys are coming at me.
That's
I'm
right.
like,
I like the ability to interact. It's positive.
Yeah, yeah, I don't.
You will be quizzed on this. I think.
I don't think it'd be too much of a problem to add a couple of days onto the end of the school year. I know that, as especially after COVID and stuff, people really don't like, having to work from home. And I know, especially for me, I have two little sisters, and being able to hang out with them on snow days is part of the fun.
Mhm.
And so I think adding days onto the end of the year would be fine, but also fit days, like it can work either way.
Question for your
Yeah.
sisters though, is do they like hanging out with you on the?
Yeah, I think there should be sort of a happy medium struck because I understand your point because I think there should be a little negotiation as far as requiring students to keep their cameras on. I taught during COVID on Zoom, and I did not require kids to turn their cameras on because who knows what was going on in the background, all these kinds of things. And what I found out at the end was that students still made a connection, even though they didn't have their camera on. They were still engaged. I did make a deal with them and say, if I call on you or ask you to do something and you don't respond, then your camera needs to come on. So some concessions that way. But I think that those days are important because there may be another pandemic and we may have to go back. So we need to, knock on wood,
Mhm.
but we have to
Mhm.
practice and make sure that our infrastructure, as far as computer
Mhm.
technology, is up to where it's supposed to be in case we need it. We can go back in the transition and no one's going in, it's like fire drills, right? So I think that keeping that in there keeps, I guess, where you'd have something to fall back on, you have the practice, and maybe some medium stuff with the camera requirement piece.
And we still have one more makeup day, right? So we can miss another snow day and they can still go out and play and, before we'd have to go to FID days, so.
Mr. Smith, I wouldn't have thought of that as for a reason, but I do remember some conversations a long time ago. Dr. McCallum, you might recall these where there was districts that required students to take some type of online course before they graduated because of so many post-secondary schools, having online. So if you didn't know how to navigate, you were kind of at
Oh.
a disadvantage, so.
I know for this year, we built our snow days into the back half of the year. Is that also the plan for?
Yeah,
here as
so
well? Okay.
that was some of the feedback. So sometime, you never know, I think our earliest snow day, November 17th at one point. So what we did is we have them built in February and March and April. Oftentimes if we build it in too early in December, we end up like not utilizing that day and then are left with two.
Hmm.
And I just want to clarify as well, like there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into preparing a calendar because
Mhm.
it also factors in not days, but it's the minutes. And what we're looking at is just from a school, like we're in school for, let's say for 6 hours, but we have a half-hour lunch and 30 minutes of recess, then you're not there for 6 hours. So that's all factored in and that's how we report to the state. So it's a very complicated, well, not very complicated formula, but it does take a tremendous amount of work. So at any rate, this is just the first draft
Mhm.
and now this actually has gone to the buildings and we've had at least some teacher feedback, admin feedback. But I wasn't prepared to ask for a vote today because I'm still waiting. The board had specific questions.
Well, I have maybe a mission, should you choose to accept it from Mr. Kaiser. But, if we tack on days at the end of the year,
Mhm.
for seniors that are graduating, are they obligated to those days as well?
Not if
Percent.
not if they have their hours in.
Okay.
So, I believe, Dr. McCallum was at the high school when we did, and it was my daughter's graduating class. They did have to come to school on Saturday because they did not have 2 Saturdays. So, so again, like it is one of those things where I think, under full disclosure, we could, if you had a scenario where we were out for like a week because of a blizzard, then that would be your 5 days. And depending on the hours, we still might have to tack days in at the end of you know what I'm saying? So like it's one of those, it's a process of like hoping the weather cooperates and hoping that we have the time in and depending on like when the weather hits.
So, Mr. Kaiser, if you're willing to accept, I would be interested to know amongst the various grade levels at the high school, what their opinion is based on, I think it was great that they came with a proposal for alternative to fit days. But if it was a fit day or tacking on at the end of the year,
All right, yeah, I could send out like a Google form on an email to do that.
sure,
All
that'd
right.
be great. And then if there's
Can
a,
we clarify, and will they actually come to school?
will they actually come to school? Because we're at this calendar, that's
They might be
the
all
first
about
week-
that, but.
first weekend too.
Yeah.
I think that would be great. And so I think this does a couple of things. One, it shows what the alternatives are. I think it was great that you came with a proposal saying, hey, we don't like this, here's maybe an alternative.
Mhm.
And so I think it kind of dives into, well, what are the different options and how do we go about exploring what those may be? So, if you are willing, I think that'd be a great exercise.
Totally.
So, awesome. Anything else on the school calendar?
If I could
Thank
just
you,
share
Sean.
this part too, I think it's something to think about too, like historically, since COVID, and I've been here 2 years, but like last year, I think we used one fit day. But I mean, in the grand scheme of it, I mean, I
Mhm.
just taking it with a grain of salt too, like, because, like, we still have another snow day yet. I mean,
Right.
are we gonna have school not a week? I doubt, but we have another snow day but typically, and again, I haven't looked at the historical trend over the past whatever since COVID, but I think something to think about is how many fit days have we actually really used? I mean,
Mhm.
it's not the best, but also to Dr. Stern's high point, you start tacking those summer days on, are we getting our bang for our buck there too? So I mean, for a day, maybe two. So just something to think about.
Yep.
So, but I appreciate the feedback too.
Mhm. Absolutely. Alrighty, why don't we go ahead and move on then to the 25-26 WASH's course selection guide. So I'm gonna go ahead and invite Dr. McCallum up as well. To kind of help spearhead this.
So this lovely slide just kind of gives like a high level. With Dr. Holtzman sharing with us projected enrollment, we didn't make a tremendous amount of changes, knowing that there's a scenario where we have fewer students in the high school in the next several years, because right now we have the remaining bubble groups at the high school. So just some highlights. This year we were really excited to partner with the other county schools and have slots in Chambersburg School District's Navy ROTC program. The board approved 6 slots for Waynesboro. We're currently using 4 of them. The students are really doing well and getting accolades and things like that. So those students will move on to level 2, which Dr. Kopko has confirmed will be scheduled at the same time. That will leave us 2 remaining vacancies for the next school year. And we've actually worked with Ms. Gildy and some of the other county principals on a application process for that. So it'll be a competitive process. So we are looking to prioritize members of the class of 2029 there that will be rising ninth graders, depending on their level of interest. I don't believe that any other county schools are using as many slots as we are. So if the board would be agreeable, I feel like there would maybe be the opportunity to purchase the slots from the other school districts to send members of other classes. It does not make sense to send students once they hit like junior year or senior year because they can't really complete a whole lot in that program. Um, as Dr. Royer highlighted, our current biology programming for the majority of students is over 2 years. That's based on the number of eligible content standards for that Keystone exam being about 1/3 more than the other two Keystones. So at the recommendation of the teachers about 10 years ago, we developed a class that we call BATS, Biological Approaches to Science, which covers, it gives kind of an overview of all of the standards. And then in 10th grade, students take biology. So based on the changes that the state has approved with the Steels transition, there are resulting changes to the Keystone exam, and it is going to eliminate some of the ecology questions that are currently on the exam, but that's likely going to mean that some of the other standard areas are more heavily emphasized. So looking at what those are, they fall into the area of environmental science, but the teachers and also working with the middle school looking at resources have proposed the title of global science in the mindset that environmental science has an aspect of earth science where we're talking about landforms and air and water and things like that, but also how those things impact humans and vice versa. So they're recommending that title just to go along with the approach of Steele's where everything in science is interconnected. And I like that. And it's a little shorter and easier to say. And then, so we're going to continue our process of some ninth graders who meet the criteria being eligible for honors biology, and they'll take the Keystone exam. We have been using ESSER funds for the last several years to fund summer school, both for those who are in need of credit recovery, as well as our students who wanted to do credit advancement, freeing up their schedule for other opportunities. But that money actually came to an end with the summer of 2023. The board was generous enough to fund summer school last school year. And we had almost 600 classes that were taken last summer just at the high school. So
Wow.
I do thank you for that. So, but knowing that that was not going to be free this coming summer, I wanted to, well, not just me, but we weren't really wanting to make sure that our students had the opportunity to take what they wanted to take and not choose. And often our students who are heavily involved in things, in band, choir, or language, they want to take the electives that we have to offer. And sometimes those choices are really hard for them, and that's why they would take credit advancement. So what we've decided, there are two graduation requirements, college and career readiness, as well as independent living. They are currently taken by ninth graders, but what we're going to do beginning with the class of 29 is that they will still need to take those classes, but they'll have flexibility on whether or not they want to select it in ninth grade or 10th grade. We will make sure that those students who plan to apply to career tech heavily recommend that they go ahead and take them in ninth grade. So because once they get into career tech, it's really hard to get some of those things scheduled. We currently have one class that we partner with the University of Pittsburgh to offer college in the high school, and that is nutrition, which is taught by Jenny Kipe. And we are going to be expanding that next school year to broadcast journalism 2. So that'll be for students that are currently taking broadcast journalism. We have a lot of juniors, and Mrs. Dickey has 2 classes of journalism, which is the prerequisite for broadcast journalism 1, also known as tribe time. So this will be for our students that are in their second year of that course. And then the University of Pittsburgh also offers 2 different statistics classes. Ms. Tressler has previously taught AP statistics. She'll be the teacher for that. She's working through the process of getting approved as an instructor. She's not exactly sure which of the 2 classes Pitt is going to approve her for. We're having to go back to her Millersville University undergraduate transcripts and things like that, but we will have one of them. So once we have those things finalized, I think that'll be a great option for our students who have accelerated their math offerings at the middle school, but are not planning to go into engineering, medicine, et cetera. Learning that a lot of colleges really want to see students taking math through junior, if not senior year. We were super blessed to hire a French teacher when Mrs. Bowerman retired. We actually hired Miss Keegan in the spring of last year. And so she has requested that we offer AP French. We have been offering AP German for several years. We added AP French or AP Spanish this year. So there's not a lot of students taking French 3 this year. I think they were worried we weren't going to hire a teacher. So I don't anticipate that class running next school year, but she wanted to make sure it was in the course selection guide as a recruitment tool so that the students know that all of our languages go up to 5 years, which is pretty impressive. In Pennsylvania, we're only required to have 2 languages go to level 4, and we have all 3 of our languages go to level 5. And then what Dr. Royer was also referencing, the handy dandy colorful chart. So Mr. Null, our assistant principal for the freshman and 11th grade, one of his kind of areas of interest and expertise on our team is within careers, and it's the high school's year to do a career event. So he's been working closely with Mr. Hoffman and the career team on that. So kind of took some time when he was covering Twilight for us and pulled the electives from the course selection guide and tried to group them based on the 6 career clusters that have been kind of the organizational of the course selection guide for probably about 10 years now. And so what he kind of identified, looking at the number of electives that we had in each of those career clusters, as well as our students' data from Smart Futures, which is the platform that they use going all the way starting in elementary school. That's what we use to meet the state's requirement for career artifacts. We have some deficit areas where students have areas of interest for careers, but we don't have a lot of electives. One of them is in the area of marketing. That's like the number one area of interest within the business management and administration cluster, and then also something within the political science realm. So I wanted to get the course selection guide approved if possible tonight so that the counselors could start working on things. But so this is one where I put placeholders in those 2 departments for courses, and I will make sure that everybody gets the board gets the descriptions when they're finalized. Mr. Null will be working with those 2 departments during our in-service later this week to hopefully, we've had marketing in the past, so hopefully looking at being able to add that back and also utilizing the flexibility since college and career will be probably not running as many sections next year. So that's kind of the high level of what's different. The rest of the book really is just kind of cleaning up some of the language and making sure that the way that we do things is written down. So some of the things with awarding credits, credit advancement, and how that pertains to students' cumulative GPA in a way that's fair, regardless of your ability to pay. Now the students will be paying for that. So I am happy to field questions, and I will again brag that I have spent a lot of time, and I continue to, looking at course selection guides in other school districts, both in our county and elsewhere. And I'm just very, very proud of what we offer for our students. And there's just so many different opportunities, both for them at the high school and I've been taking my daughter on college visits, and I feel very confident that our students who want to pursue whatever it is at the next level, they have available what they need, whether it's military, job, 2-year school, college, career tech, they're ready to go. And I thank you for that support. So
Very
if you have
good.
questions, I can take them. Oh, Mr. Kaiser's got it.
It's not really a question. I just want to add, I'm one of the cadets in the NJROTC program. It's an amazing program. The commander, Apgar, and Master Sergeant Mani run a really tight ship. I would encourage pretty much any student to join. It can really help be a confidence booster as well as a discipline improvement, and it's a really great program.
Thank you. Maybe get you on a segment of Tribe Time for when course selection goes live.
What year are you in school?
I'm a sophomore now.
You're sophomore, okay.
So this year we opened it up to freshmen, sophomores, and juniors since it was a new program. Commander Apgar had suggested that juniors could do 2 years and that would be worth their
Right.
time. So, yeah. And they're there during block 1. So they get back, so that they get 2 credits for that program
We
over the course of the
transport
year.
them to Chambersburg and then bring them back.
We do, yeah. So it was a little bit of a logistics with Mrs. Bayer, but we're kind of utilizing like a van that comes from Chambersburg, and then we just take them back. And then Mr. Davis is already up there dropping some kids off, and he brings them back on his way
Making
back.
it work.
Yeah, making it work.
Kudos.
Yes.
How many students like apply for to the Career Tech Center like every year, like in a
So their applications were due on the 10th, and the last time Miss Eddy updated me, I want to say our applications were around 175, and I think that we had 80 slots for the upcoming year. So
Half.
it's a great problem to have. I'm very proud that in the 4 years I've been the principal, we've had the highest fill rate of our slots in the county. I think that goes back to taking our teachers to Career Tech to see what it's like so that they can have those conversations. And when we take the students on their trip in November, I try to make sure that our new teachers go along as the chaperones so that they can get that experience too. So we have done a good job of retaining our students there. So basically, the number of slots that we then have available is based on who graduates. Yeah.
For the kids who don't get in, is there like anything that the district can do to help them get into some other type of program?
So that was a topic of our academic committee today.
Okay.
So it's been something Mr. Hoffman has been talking about with the admin team. We're really passionate about that. I know Dr. Cernerheim is as well. So I think there's some things in the works, but for us, I think it really does come back to the flexibility of block scheduling, allowing us to have some of those partnerships. Like we have a partnership with JLG that students can be usually seniors, but we have a junior who did the program this year. It's kind of like a paid internship. So they're learning a job and seeing if they like that. And then utilizing some of those other programs and just recently had a meeting with WellSpan trying to expand on a program that had been in place before, kind of fell by the wayside a little bit, looking to really revamp that. So, and then also some of the things that Dr. Cernerheim has I know
So
talked about.
we're not unique in Franklin County. In fact, most of the districts have the same scenario
Mhm.
where we have only X amount of slots. So that's part of the reason Franklin County superintendents are exploring other options, working very collaboratively together. I had the opportunity to visit the Ignite School, which essentially is something that all of us are hoping we can develop here in Franklin County. So we are blessed that we also have numerous partners, corporations that are also very interested in coming alongside and developing something that would be in line to it's not a substitution for career tech by any means, but it's just another means of addressing needs of students that may have an interest in one of these career clusters. And within that, there will be like, it would almost be like a comprehensive high school. They would go to school there, our hope would be, and then still come back for the elective. So it's a work in progress, and it is a situation that all the Franklin County superintendents recognize. We have to find a way to be able to meet the needs of all our students, because in essence, the students are asked, I think, under career
Mhm.
tech to pick a first, second, or third choice.
Uh-huh.
And if you don't get your first choice, I mean, you can always try to convince them to do something else, but that's not, I mean,
Mhm.
again, that's a challenge. And it's not, they're not as fluid as, like, we can't simply say, well, then we need to have 3 more welding shops,
Correct.
so,
Yeah.
but we're
And
looking.
if you pick, diesel mechanics and you pick automotive, these are related shops, but we had a situation where one of the most competitive shops is vet tech. And then their second choice was culinary. And I think that the student enjoyed that program, but ultimately decided not to return senior year because that's not something they plan to do as a career. It's more of a hobby.
And so one of the things we're also cognizant of from a county perspective is that, obviously we want our learners to have the best quality education, but we're also looking at, not, we want to make sure that we're training our own to remain here in Franklin County. So like, what exactly are the employers looking for? Where are the jobs? And so therefore that should be matching up with what career tech. I think one of the problematic areas is, like, there's more students that want to be a cosmetologist, but
Mhm.
if you look at the employment possibilities that we are training them to be a cosmetologist, but there may or may not be as many opportunities. So it sort of has to be like one of those, like, we're trying to, have them develop their interest, but also make sure that if they're going to remain here in Franklin County, what are their options here?
Exactly. And I think, the JROTC program is another great example of us being creative. And like we have the program with Shippensburg University for early childhood. I don't believe that the other county schools have anything like that. So I think Mr. Scholes at Curtech has a platform where the principals meet, just like how Dr. Cernerheim meets. And through that has been a lot of interesting conversations and things that I've suggested to her and vice versa. So I think that, there's, it's good that the group of us are collaborative and communicative with each other. So.
Yeah, I was on the Education Next committee. I met with them a couple of times at PSBA, and one of the things they're doing is trying to think of new ways to do education a lot differently than the whole 30, 40 years it's been done. And so I'm thinking about the program we were observed when we were in Germany, where, and they've been working at it a lot longer than we have in the United States as it relates to sort of making sure kids have those options and guiding them in different directions. So the kids that were doing they could actually, they were partnering with the businesses, and these kids would actually work and get a check, right? And so some of those kids help to pay for things for their families. So they're getting the training and they're getting paid to go to a job that they will do eventually, you know, when they get out of school as well. So, you know, any kind of thing that we could do, you know, some partnering with businesses is really
Absolutely.
is key. But
Yeah.
actually, I think it would motivate kids more if they actually saw some money at the end of the day
Yeah.
along with their education.
And we can teach them about
Yeah.
taxes.
Yeah. Well, we had like kind of an interesting story with a student who was in the class of 24 that really wanted to do an internship in veterinary, and Mr. Hoffman was just having a hard time. And he did eventually get her placed in Greencastle, and she did that internship in the fall semester, and then ultimately they hired her in the spring semester. So in the spring, she just did work experience instead. And I don't have the data in front of me of how many students we have placed for this year. But you know, obviously we'll be flipping over to that. And a lot of our kids at Career Tech, if they've been there all 3 semesters, their last semester, they're on co-op. So like I have a nephew who graduated with Dr. Cerner Hines' daughter. He did auto body. So his senior year, he was at Antrim Way Honda. He still works there today doing auto body. And that's very common conversation, you know,
Yeah,
example for the kids that are at Career Tech.
hired by the end of their junior
Yeah, I mean, my husband would love to hire people who went and got their, you know, things at Career Tech, and his company sponsors one of the shops up there. So the business partnerships, as well as like us working with the Franklin County Development Corporation and Mr. Hoffman, it's just all really awesome. So does anybody else have any other questions about the course?
I just
selection?
had, you know, 2 thoughts. I think, you know, I think one of the things that I left today's academic meeting, you know, just kind of going down memory lane, having that history. You know, Diane was with me in 2012 when I came to the district, and in my interview, it was made very clear to me by the board that the measure of success was students going to a 4-year college.
Mhm.
And that was the goal, to increase that 4-year college rate. And then, you know, the economy and COVID came, and then, you know, more and more kids were going to 2-year colleges. So schools stopped looking at that 4-year college, and then they were looking at just post-secondary education. You know, now we're looking into not necessarily needing everyone needing, you know, some type of post-secondary. So it's been a huge culture shift
Mhm.
in relatively, if you think about it, a short amount
Yeah.
of time. If you
Yeah.
look at where, you know, our district, if you looked at a course selection guide from 2012 as compared to,
Which we still have them.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
have them back to, I think, the 90s.
yeah, I just threw a few mine out. It was a hard thing to throw out.
You made it with an apple too, yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I was thinking of, to Dr. McCallum when I left today, is that document that, Mr. Knoll put together.
Mhm.
I'm not sure whether that was independently or with a group. I would suspect most districts, you know, we always said when the career standards started, like, well, what are we gonna do with this stuff?
Mhm.
You know, it was like, you know, we're spending all this money, you know, on all of this, and like, well, how are we gonna use it?
Mhm.
And I was thinking today that I'm not sure many districts have actually taken that data
Mhm.
and translated into, what does this mean for how we run our high school?
Yeah.
Not
We
just.
have the counselors pull that when they are assisting the students to prep for their interview for Career Tech.
Okay.
You know, if you're applying for vet tech, but your interest area is not like, that might be a hard one. It's a pretty technical shop. So, I mean, all of them are. It is pretty complicated up there.
But I think the document that Derek created has some good potential for some grant applications.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
You know what I mean? And showing that we've looked at the data of where we
Yeah.
have a need,
Mhm.
you know, to show businesses, you
Yeah,
know, that this
absolutely.
is hard data of the students that are interested in this area.
Mhm.
I would suspect most high schools haven't put together that information.
Yeah, well, kudos to Mr. Knoll. So.
Yeah.
And it is attached to it's on board docs tonight.
Yeah, you may, and you have a hard copy too,
Yes.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes.
Well, they didn't hand us one of them, did they? Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. That was great information.
Does anybody have any other questions about that?
Anything else with the course selection guide? Alrighty, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion to approve the 2025-26 WASH's course selection guide.
Move to approve.
Second.
First and a second. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. All that means for Dr. McCallum is that she has more work to do.
Now I have plenty of time to do.
There you go. Thank you for all the work that went into it and all the work that will continue now that it's been approved. Up next, we have the overnight trip for our Washes Cheer team.
This is just a request, board request to allow our competitive cheer team to travel, to compete, in Disney. And the dates are listed there. I believe they did participate in this. I believe it was in 2017 the last time. So, it's a standardized form that we have, we have the board approve. So my recommendation is to approve the trip, and congratulations to our cheerleaders for qualifying.
Is there a motion to approve the overnight trip request?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a first and second. Any discussion or questions?
Are they taking an admin and a nurse, or are they not?
So the way we have it set up is that, interestingly enough, in the past, when they went in 2017, there was an admin that attended. However, this is a unique situation in the sense that there are 13 students or cheerleaders that are attending, and ironically, I think all their parents are also in attendance. So the primary reason that we have oftentimes admin that attend is if there are disciplinary concerns or situations that happen that you have to stay back from the competition. At this point, from a nurse perspective, normally we also send a nurse. They have the ability to, if depending on the type of medication, there are certain medications they're permitted to have. In this particular case, there is a volunteer that is also a chaperone that is not a member, not a district employee, that is willing to serve in that capacity. We are not permitted to ask our employees to administer medication, but a parent can obviously ask another parent. And so, we've essentially elected to cover it in that way, and I do not anticipate. The unfortunate thing is, the more people you take, the more costly the trip becomes as the entire group. So my recommendation, I feel solid. I'll be honest, I'm the admin who went in 2017, and I really didn't have much to do because there were so many parents there. So I don't feel that there's a need there, and I would believe that, most Mr. Wackawan as well as the coaches would indicate to me if they felt there was a need. That's a great question. Thank you.
Other questions? None. We'll get to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And carries. That will bring us down to WASD drivers. Dr. Holson.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We just have 3 drivers who've passed the requisite requirements to have drivers for the district. We're asking for approval.
Alrighty, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the WASD drivers as listed?
So move.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions on this one. All right, motion carries. That will then bring us to second reading of policies. Anything further to say on this, Mr. Pence?
I don't think there are any changes for.
First time? Perfect. So we have policies, as were mentioned earlier, 218, 218-1, 218-2, 607, 803, and 806. So I will entertain a motion to approve the second reading of all of those policies.
Move to approve.
First, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any additional discussion? Alrighty. All those in favor of approving, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now we have a discussion only for tonight. We will not be voting on these. These are the policies that Mr. Pence mentioned earlier. So threat assessment, dating violence, personal necessity leave, uncompensated leave, and use of generative AI in education. Any additional comments, Mr. Pence, or I'll open it for
I'd
discussion?
recommend all the parents read the AI policy, just because it's new and.
Yeah.
There's strong feelings on both sides of that.
Any other discussion? Considerations?
Was it the last board meeting that Mr. McCray was here that he sort of volunteered to talk with anybody that was interested in AI? Because I know I said AI scares me and so,
Him and Nick came and did a lot of,
Did
answered
it?
a lot of
Okay.
questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both,
Good.
yeah, both Nick and Keith worked. It's basically a combination of the PSBA and then, something else that we got from another attorney.
okay. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the article that he presented the last time that we talked about was about AI. And I had the, opportunity to lead, the, teacher in service. And our whole focus was on AI. And I believe I shared most of my resources in the, Friday folder. So, in terms of next steps, assuming that the policy is passed, is that we need to be planning for our teacher training more specific, like in terms of expectations, and then moving forward, making sure that our learners have a full understanding. But as Mr. Pence had pointed out, that the chart essentially would be something that would be incorporated into our handbooks.
Mhm.
And again, whether or not it's a poster, we talk to the teachers, it's almost like any assignment moving forward, there's going to be a criteria, at what level they're allowed to utilize AI and in what capacity, so. And it's always evolving, but, yep, we can definitely plan what do you think, Nick? Board retreat on AI? No, it's frozen. I think.
Or is that just the way he's looking at you?
I think,
Yeah.
it's frozen.
He hasn't blinked in a while.
No,
Yeah.
I think with the way, things are changing in technology all the time and not just AI, having Mr. McCray's, expertise to kind of guide us. Because I think it's definitely an area that nobody's going to consider themselves, an expert at this point.
No.
So having him kind of lead the way and give guidance, I think has really been like a huge asset for us.
Very good. Any other thoughts or comments on the policies listed for this evening? Well, if you think of anything or you hear feedback, please be sure to pass it along to our policy committee as they kind of meet and discuss these before our second reading.
And just to remind the public, where are these located for someone in the public that wants to look at them?
They are located on board docs,
Okay.
like anything you guys can see today within the meeting
Mm-hmm.
in the public section, so
Okay.
anyone can look at it.
So I was gonna say, one of the other things, like once the policy is passed, we talked about the importance of having, whether it is a meeting in the buildings, like a parent, like Q&A type scenario with AI, or even like a Google Meet where parents can, or anyone in the community have the opportunity. So that's something else that we could facilitate like late spring.
Good. Alrighty, so we will go ahead and move on to financial business. Dr. Holzman, if we could do items 1 and 2 together, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So we have board bills payable for general fund and food services as well as requisitions. And then we also have 2 property assessment changes, and it's in there for both of those assessment changes.
I will entertain a motion to approve financials 1 and 2.
Move to approve.
There's a second?
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes. That brings us towards the end. So, anything from our Clayton cabinet?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, piggybacking off of Dr. McCallum and the- I had the opportunity, I know a number of community members were able to participate in student interviews, mock interviews this past week with Mr. Fisher's class and all the work and that goes into that and organizing that. And it really is impressive. I know actually got some community feedback and Dr. Sternheim and others, but being able to sit down and across from the students who are freshmen actually was rather impressive. Some of the impression, some how articulate and the confidence and the poise that some of our freshmen had here at WASD. It was really refreshing to be a part of that process. So good job, Dr. McCallum and Mr. Fisher and everybody involved in that. I also want to thank the board again for giving me the opportunity to be involved in leadership Franklin County, and I want to send a big kudos to Mr. Smith. In our last session, he was in jail. I mean, we were at the jailhouse in the morning. We actually visited Franklin County Jail, but then in the afternoon, we met in at the Chambersburg Municipal Building where they have their meetings with Franklin County Township supervisors and so forth. And the afternoon was spent with a panel of folks who talked about different, elected offices and so forth. And Mr. Smith was on that panel and was able to give his perspective as a board member to all the participants. And of course, Mr. Marvin's a part of that too and helped to facilitate that too. So kudos to both of them. So.
Anything else from our Clayton Cabinet team? All right, any board member comments for this evening? There's none. I will simply conclude this by saying it's scholarship season for our students that are looking. There are various scholarships out there. And also there are lots of local scholarships. I know Franklin County does scholarship for those that are looking to go into nursing, as well as the financial institution I'm a part of. And I saw that there's a couple other advertisements for some of the other local financial institutions also offer scholarships for students as well. I know that the high school has a very robust scholarship page on the high school website. And so definitely encourage, with the turning of the calendar, things tend to move a little bit faster. And so those that are interested, I highly encourage to apply and work with our high school counseling team if they need help with that. So I will kind of conclude this with that. I will entertain a motion to adjourn for the evening.
Motion to
You
adjourn.
adjourn.
All right, I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm waiting for that one opposed. So,
I don't want-
all righty. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.